All right, well, thank you everyone for attending today's webinar on OneNote 101, Organize Your Notes, Plans, and Ideas Like a Pro. This is our fourth webinar of our productivity series presented by Barrington Ops. And if you want to see our past webinars, we do have them listed on our website and on YouTube. And perhaps if you watch this one today, we're going to cover a lot of information today. We're going to go fairly fast, and we will be recording this, so you will be able to go back and review this webinar to pick up anything that you might have missed. So I'm Robert Newcomb, and I'll be presenting the webinar today. Just a few housekeeping items before we get started. You will be muted for the duration of this webinar, so don't worry about saying anything. I won't be able to hear you, neither will anyone else, and no one's going to see you on webcam either. We're not going to be bothering using the raise hand feature, but instead you can type out questions at any time during the webinar as those questions might come into your head. I'll be setting aside about 10 to 15 minutes at the end to answer any questions that you have, and I'll get through as many as I can. There is a handout that is attached, so if you go to the control panel, you should be able to download that at any time. So you can do that now. You can do that at the end of the webinar. You won't be needing it to actually follow through, but it's a nice little takeaway that covers a lot of this information, or at least a high-level overview of some of this information to review at the end. So just a very quick background on myself. My name is Robert Newcomb. I joined Barrington back in 2013 after graduating with my industrial engineering degree from Dalhousie. I am an associate partner at Barrington, and I co-lead the Barrington Ops division as a Lean Six Sigma Black Belt. Currently working with a number of different clients in public and private sector, focusing on Lean Six Sigma training, facilitating workshops, process improvement projects, and green belt coaching. If you want to follow me on LinkedIn, I invite you to do so. Like to grow my network and connect with other folks and talk a lot about productivity in Lean Six Sigma. So I'm going to show a poll here. Hopefully it doesn't take too long for it to load, but I want to know, how do you currently take notes? So perhaps you are already using OneNote and you're comfortable with it, and that is kind of your solely note-taking device. Otherwise, you might be using another app or program such as Word. Maybe you're using a pen and paper. That type of, so there we go. I think that's a little late, but OneNote, other app or program, pen and paper, you like doing things by hand and keeping track that way. Or maybe you use a mix of everything. So you use a little bit in OneNote, you might be keeping track of some stuff in emails, you might be using pen and paper for other things too. So I see a number of folks have voted, and it looks like we have a mix of everything here. So I'm going to share these results with you folks, and it looks like a mix of everything in pen and paper. We'll add that up to over 80% of folks. So only 10% here are using OneNote. So you'll likely learn a few neat tips and tricks for the other 90%. Or I'm guessing if you use a mix of everything, you might dabble in OneNote. I'm going to try to show the benefits of having everything in OneNote that you can, and using a full integrated system to make sure that you manage your information and you are on top of things and you're able to get things done. So the objectives for today, want to give you, and hopefully you can understand, strong habits to manage your notes and get things done. We are going to go over the basic functionality of OneNote. So why you might use OneNote, how you create a OneNote notebook, and how you might structure your information in there, and how you can manage that going forward. So some folks may be starting notebooks and then just forget about them. Well, we want to be able to help you set up a standardized template so you can continue to use it, and it actually provides value to you. So to start, we're going to go through David Allen's Getting Things Done model. If anyone's read that book, it is great. It is a little old school, but we are taking that model of kind of paper and applying that to the digital version in OneNote. And then we're jumping right into a OneNote demonstration, and I'm just going to open it up and show a number of different tools and things you can do in OneNote and go through some of my notebooks. And then at the end, I'll answer any questions that you may have in the time remaining. So those that know me, at least my colleagues, know that I don't have the best memory. And my wife definitely knows it, and my family definitely knows it. And actually, my father told me at a young age, probably when I was around 12, that my memory was like a bunny's tail, short and fuzzy. So I thought that was pretty funny and fairly accurate. So the next day, I was talking to my grandparents, and I said, "Did you guys know that I have a memory like a pig's tail, short and curly?" So I got a couple laughs, but I don't think they're necessarily laughing with me. My memory was poor enough that I couldn't even remember the joke about having a bad memory. So that just kind of gives a little bit of background of some of of how I've developed a system. I've turned my weakness of memory into a strength of creating a system that can capture all my notes so I don't have to worry about remembering everything. So the mind is great for for creating ideas, not for storing information. So we want to allow tools to help us with that. And this is actually great at this time and age because we have access to information at a click of a button. Whether it's asking Google, you can do it by voice, you can do it on the web. So there's no real point to store all this information in your head. So how can you use OneNote to reference this information that you might not be easily or readily accessible? So in our Lean Six Sigma training, we talk about Tim Woods as 8 different types of waste. And 2 of those types of waste, the 2 O's, are overprocessing and overproduction. So we can think of this in actually terms of storing information. Overprocessing is doing more work than necessary. So you don't want to waste time thinking about things more than once. So if you watched our email management webinar, or if you want to go back and see that recording, we talk about inbox zero. And the most effective way to get to inbox zero is one-touch emails. So same thing applies to other types of notes, ideas, thoughts, information. Is you only want to think about it once. You don't want it constantly coming back in your head saying, oh, right, I forgot to do that. Oh, it's Friday, I forgot to pay that bill again. We want to put it into a place and make sure that it comes to us when we need it. Same with overproduction. A lot of times we do a lot of research that we never use, or we have a lot of thoughts and ideas that we may never reference again. We want to enable our information to be available just in time when we need it, not just in case, and the overproduction of notes. So this is David Allen's Getting Things Done model, and this is using his kind of physical paper version. And you can see everything, all this stuff goes into an inbox. So not necessarily your email inbox, but a starting place. So this could be different thoughts that you have, different ideas. Maybe it's conversations that you want to remember for later. Could be meeting notes. All of these things that come to us that we write down, we want to be able to capture and organize. So the thought process is you start with, well, what is it? Is it actionable? Well, if it's not actionable, then you either eliminate it, you don't need it for further referencing or information. Perhaps you incubate it so you can use it for possible later actions. You can use it, maybe someday you'll need it in the future. Maybe it's just not the right timing, or you need it for reference. So you might have a list or a folder that you might need to come back to later, whether it's a conversation meeting or something you want to do. So if it is actionable, you can look at, well, is it a project? Is there multiple steps to do? So you can track projects, you have project plans, and within those project plans, you're going to have next actions. So with actioning those items, if it's less than 2 minutes, you just do it. So we talk about this in our email management course as well. Less than 2 minutes coming in your inbox, just deal with it. Don't let it linger. Don't push it off for later. If it's longer than 2 minutes, first you want to ask yourself, can I delegate it? If you can hold it. You can set yourself a reminder that if you give it to someone else, you might want to follow up if you're not quite sure they're going to do that on their own. And then if you're not delegating it, you're deferring it because you're not doing it now. And if you need to do it at a specific time or on a certain day, you can put that in your calendar. Otherwise, it's going to go in your next action list, which is basically your to-do list that could be prioritized. So as we walk through this whole model, it kind of starts with OneNote. So if it's not email, but it's stuff, it's information, OneNote can capture all of it. So from there, we have all this stuff. Maybe we have an inbox sort of thing in OneNote. If it isn't actionable, then maybe we get rid of it. We no longer need it in OneNote. We can put it in the recycling bin. Otherwise, maybe we want to organize those ideas or those someday maybe type pieces of information to incubate. And we can use OneNote to reference information later. And OneNote has a great searching function to be able to get that information very quickly, very easily, instead of flipping back through your logbook to a meeting note that might have been 2 months ago. OneNote is also great for capturing projects and project plans, so we can use it there. If we're delegating information and we want to follow up by the end of the week or follow up at the end of the day to see if that information was completed, we can use OneNote, and OneNote integrates with Outlook. So you can use Outlook task flags in OneNote, or you could use To Do. So Logan Bailey, my colleague, did a wonderful webinar last week on task management, and he talks more detail about that. And then for deferring, if you're putting in the calendar, that was our second webinar on calendar management. You can use Outlook to make sure you do it at the right time on the right day, and that nothing else is going to get in that way of getting that important task done. And then for those next actions, those to-do lists, you can either use OneNote with Outlook flags, which we'll discuss, or To Do. So you can see everything that comes in, all of this information. Microsoft tools integrate very well together to manage everything that's coming in. So you no longer have to worry about managing it in 5, 6, 10 different places, both physical and digital copies. So I'm going to show another poll here, and I am curious, and I know that only 10% have used or just used OneNote. So I want to know how often you use OneNote. So you might have been one of the folks that had mixed. Maybe you have a mix of everything. So I'm curious, if you are using a mix of everything, are you using OneNote all the time? Are you only using it sometimes? Or are you someone that's using OneNote rarely or never? This is going to be a close race. And we have one of the categories pulling through here. So this isn't a big surprise to me. It may be to you. So it sounds like some of you that are using, even if you're using a mix of everything, you're using OneNote religiously. About 28% of you use it all the time, about every day. A third is using it perhaps about sometimes, maybe once a week, a month, and 41% of you have used it rarely or never. So you know that it might be useful. That's likely why you're here today, and I want to show you the benefits of OneNote and why you might want to be using that more regularly. So I'm going to get right into it. I'm going to open up OneNote and we're going to walk through it, and I'm going to show you a few of the cool things that OneNote can do. So this is OneNote 2016. So hopefully everyone can see my screen there. And I'm just going to start by creating a new notebook. So if I go here, add notebook, the first thing it's going to ask you is where you want to save it. If you are using Microsoft 365 and you do have access to OneDrive, I highly recommend you save it there. It's much easier to share information versus saving it on your desktop. So I'm just going to save it to my notebooks folder, and then it's going to ask you to save it as a notebook name. So let's just call this coronavirus project, and I'll walk through a few of the things here. So the first thing it's going to ask you is, your notebook has been created. Would you like to share it with other people? I'm going to say not now, but this is great for collaborating with team members. If you want to all share notes in the same place, OneNote's a perfect tool for that. So the first thing you're going to see is your list of notebooks are going to be in the top left here in this drop down. So you can have many different notebooks. Along the top, you're going to have sections, and then on the right here, you're going to have pages. So think of it as like a physical notebook. You're going to be carrying, if you're going to school, you might have a notebook for every subject or every class. You have tabs likely for different, phases within that class, or different types of subjects or different projects. So those would go on the top, and then pages. So you can have almost unlimited pages within each section, and you can add subpages as well to help organize some of that information within that section. And that's simply just right-clicking, make subpage. So people ask me, well, I don't know where to start with OneNote, and I don't know how much information should go in one notebook. And I say, if you're working on projects and you're heavily involved in those projects, separate each notebook per project. But if you have absolutely no idea where to start, just start with one notebook, capture everything there. And once your sections grow too big, then you might want to section off those sections and actually create them into a new notebook. So it's very user-friendly. You can just click on the top and type. So because we're looking at the coronavirus, I'm going to say, let's look at global. Perhaps we can add a page here. We'll look at Canada, and then I want to look at Nova Scotia. So very easy, add it in. You can type at the top, and as you can see, it automatically populates over here on the right. So let's just call this section research. So the first thing I want to show you, and what I use probably OneNote, or one of the highest things that I use OneNote the most for is screen clipping and capturing information from the web or from a browser. So I'm going to open up Chrome here, and I'm going to look up Johns Hopkins. So they have a great coronavirus map. For those that have seen this, I'm a big dashboard fanatic, so I really kind of caught on to this. So there's a few different things you can do here. If I go back to OneNote, screen clipping. So if you go at the top bar, you're going to default to home, insert. This is where all your information is coming from. If you want to insert from other places outside of OneNote. And if I click screen clipping here, what's going to happen is it's going to minimize my OneNote program and show whatever's behind it. And so my screen is going to turn a little fuzzy here. And if I click and drag, this is what's going to copy exactly as is into OneNote. So very cool. It shows exactly what's being seen on the page, and it's also going to tell you when the screen clipping was taken. So the other way to do this is if I open Chrome back up, and I have clip to OneNote. So OneNote Web Clipper is an add-in or an extension that you can have for Chrome. I believe the extension exists for Firefox and Edge or whatever else you might use, but it gives you a little bit more flexibility and information here. So I can either look at a full page to copy over into OneNote. I can just do a region or screen clipping, so that's the same functionalities I just showed. The article functionality is really cool. It just brings in the text. So if you have all this pictures and ads and all of this stuff that's just kind of getting in the way, perhaps you're looking at recipes and you see all of this, videos and stuff that are popping in. The article can be handy, or maybe you just want a bookmark. So it's going to ask you for the location. So I can just click on the coronavirus research, and I can clip the full page. I think that's going to be a little bit slow, so I'm just going to clip the bookmark. And as you can see, it's not immediate, but it's pretty quick where it's going to show up below here. Perfect. So you can have that bookmark information as well. So if I go to Canada and look at their coronavirus updates, you can see they got a nice map, so I could do a screen clipping there. But what I want to show is PDFs and how those imports. So if I look at this report here, they do daily updates. On the top right, I can download this PDF, and you can see here, I already have it. So I've downloaded it here. If I open up OneNote, what I can do is there's two different ways I can insert a PDF. I can do a file printout or file attachment. So if I do a printout, it's actually going to show all of the pages in OneNote. So it's basically just like opening the PDF within OneNote, except it's saving you a couple clicks because all the pages will just automatically print out. So this is great for taking notes. So if you go to the draw at the top, you have different drawing capabilities. So I'm just on my laptop. If you do have a tablet, this is super handy as far as writing notes and actually scribbling over. So maybe there's some things that I want to highlight here. I can take a marker and I can circle other things, or I can just type over top. So for that, you'll want to double click, and you can type anywhere on your OneNote page. So whether that's on top of a PDF or anywhere else on the screen, you can type as well. So you can change your font size, color, thickness, all of that cool stuff. This will be a good one for those that haven't used OneNote or those that use OneNote quite a bit, is you may have had issues with PDFs or PowerPoint slides coming in sideways. So I can show you an easy and quick fix for that. So this PDF from the government, it's basically a slide deck, a PowerPoint slide saved as a PDF. So you'll notice the landscape slides here. So if I am to download that and try to import that as a PDF, so insert file printout. It's going to take a few seconds here. So if you have a very large slide deck or a very large PDF, it could take a minute or two for it to insert, depending on the size. So you can see in OneNote, unfortunately, the slides all come in sideways. And for whatever reason, there's no easy way to turn this in OneNote. So you're probably thinking, oh yeah, I've come across that before. Well, the other handy tool is if you are in Chrome or any PDF and you go to print, you can print directly to OneNote. So I also use this quite a bit. So if I'm to send to OneNote as is, it's still going to do the same thing. It's still going to show those slides in a portrait position. So if I go to more settings, print using system dialog, I'll get the usual printer selection. And if I go to preferences, all I do is just switch portrait to landscape. If I click print, it's already sending to OneNote. You'll see OneNote down here will likely start to flash. There it is. It's going to ask me where I want to send this. So I'll click the project here, research, click OK. And it's going to insert the document in the correct way. So same thing, you can make notes and search over top of it there too. So other things that I'm not going to go into full detail here, but you can insert pictures, online video. So when you're searching an online video, you can simply just put in the YouTube address or wherever Vimeo, wherever you might be getting that video from, and it will automatically insert that video into OneNote. So it won't be a link that'll direct you elsewhere. You can actually play the video inside OneNote. And here at full screen, it's all the same functionality, and you can also go to YouTube from that link as well. The other cool functionalities is you can record audio and record video. So I can record audio as I am right now. It starts automatically, and then you can actually make some of that text searchable at a later time. So that takes OneNote a couple of hours to do, to actually transcribe and save that information. So I'm not going to show it here, but it can also record audio, record video. So that's what I'm going to show you with the new notebook. I think the other cool tricks is easier if I show you within one of my notebooks here. So this is a project that I set up for Halifax Transit and Accessibus. So you can see I have research here, and I have all of my tabs and research all in one information. So the great thing about adding subpages is you can roll things up, and then you can expand and see all of the different pages and information here as I go through. So it's one place to capture all of my data. I'm not worried about bouncing between documents. And then if you need to hand this off to someone, it's simple as just sharing the notebook with them. So research, current state, future state. I also have meetings all in one place. So you'll see here is I have them organized, whether it's by phase or by client, all of my meetings and meeting notes. So OneNote, if you are using Office 365, OneNote's great is because it integrates directly with Outlook. So you can bring in meetings from Outlook and all that information there. So if I go here, I bring in the webinar details. I can see it automatically brings over the title of the meeting. It brings over the meeting date, location, the invitation message. So if you do have an agenda in your meeting invite, it can all show here, as well as all the participants. So you can choose to mark those in attendance or not attending. It is very easy, simple, quick click. So if you are someone that takes notes for meetings and those meetings are already in your calendar, it's one way to just simply integrate and bring it all together. So then it's just as simple as typing in notes and so on below. The other way that you may want to take notes is with a page template. So if I go back to the top to insert page templates, there's many different templates I can add. So you can see academic, you might have lecture notes, blank templates, whether it's by size or color. And then for business, you'll see there's many different types of notes. So perhaps informal meeting notes will just be simple agenda, action items, important dates, announcements, discussion, summary. So there's a number of different templates here that you can play with, as along with formal meeting agendas. And then it's very simple to share this information with others in the meeting. Also, if you're taking notes into a meeting, another quick and helpful tool, if you go to the top and go to view, is dock to desktop. So when I dock to desktop, it automatically rearranges my screen and brings up my last piece of whatever my other program was that was open in the background. So I can easily follow along on the webinar, perhaps, if I'm watching a webinar, I want to take notes, or if someone else is doing a presentation, I have that presentation open in front of me, and I'm also taking notes. Then you can easily do both without having to have two separate monitors or bouncing back and forth between screens. So if I'm to open up my slideshow here, and I start taking notes, you'll see it actually links my notes to the program. So if you're using Excel, Word, PowerPoint, any Office products, it's going to link whatever that program or whatever that document is to those notes. So you can always double click, go back and see exactly where you were or what version you were taking those notes from. So the last thing I want to show you is my personal OneNote. Without going into too much detail, I'll go through some of the organizing and searching functionalities. So this is my personal one. As you can see, I've labeled it Getting Things Done, GTD, and I have an inbox section here. So basically, because OneNote has a nice app, you can take notes on your phone, take pictures on your phone, and automatically integrate it to OneNote. So it's there, you don't have to worry about it, you don't have to email yourself or anything like that. So if I don't have time to figure out exactly where it goes, in what section or what page, I'll just put it in my inbox to sort for later. So those pages will show up here. I have ideas to track, so perhaps it's gifts. I am terrible at remembering gift ideas, and friends, my wife, always drops these hints. Now I can manage these hints, I can write them down, and I can make sure that for the next holiday or event, birthday, whatever it might be, I will remember those. So this has been very, very helpful. Perhaps you're keeping logs, whether you're doing your own journal, tracking habits, you can track it here. Grow is for all books, podcasts, videos that I watch, read, and listen to. So I have a growing book list, unfortunately. It grows more than it shrinks. So I keep a running list here, a running tally, and then I also have a running list of book notes. So anything here that you see on the right with an asterisk, it's actually notes that I've stolen from someone else. Anything without the asterisk is a book I've read and is my own notes. So I keep track here of a bunch of different books, and then that makes it super easy if I want to reference this information later. Thinking that, just in time information, it's like, oh, I remember reading something about that. Well, that's where search really comes in handy. So on the top here, or shortcut Control-E, Control-F, you can type in anything, any phrase. It's just like the rest of the Microsoft products. You can use quotes for specific phrases, and it will show you in title where that might be. So I've typed lean, and right now it's searching all notebooks. So no matter how many notebooks you have, you could have 10 different projects with 10 different notebooks. This search functionality will look across everything. So if you're thinking about taking physical notes in a logbook and you have to flip back what was said that meeting, well, this makes this so much more efficient and streamlined. So you can look at all notebooks, you can look at just this notebook, you can look at just this section, you can look at just this page. So it's very handy and very capable searching functionality. Other categories that I have here is people, so tracking my network, real estate investing, different recipes. You'll notice, a lot of these, I haven't tried many of these recipes, just when I stumble across them, you put them down, so it's good to reference. Finances, just different relax personal things, health, and reference. So for reference, if you think, man, I wish I had that warranty, or I wish I had those instructions for that piece of technology or that equipment, I just take pictures of it and put it all here. So you can see different warranty and instructions, because you always end up losing them or you end up throwing them out. They're here and you don't have to worry about that later. So that is at a high level just what I wanted to show through this notebook. Other things that you can do, and it's great for organizing, is tags. So you have the typical to-do tags, questions, all of these different types of tags. So it makes things so much easier to sort. So even if you don't remember the line item or the text, you can just search by tag, similar to categories, I guess, as it is in email. You can customize those tags so you can edit it for yourself. You can add a new tag with different symbols, fonts, and highlights. And then if you're doing well at adding tags and organizing those, you can find tags. So on the right, if I am up at home, find tags, you can see all of these different tag names. So you can group by tags, you can group by section, you can group by title, and then print a summary. So if I go down the right here and I create summary page, this can be helpful if you're tracking to-dos across multiple notebooks or multiple pages. You can actually print them all off here. So you can see that looks across all of your notebook. So I have gotten away from using OneNote to-do tags because I found I was just adding them to meetings and never getting back to them, because some of them were just ideas that I wasn't coming back to. But using Outlook tasks is great. So perhaps you're in a meeting and say, action item for me due end of the week. And you want to make sure you remember this. And perhaps you're not going to reference back to this OneNote page because you're doing meetings the entire day. If I assign an Outlook task and say end of this week, tag it with this week, you'll see start date and due date here is April 17th. So if I am to open my Outlook, and if you see here this week on the right, action item for me due end of this week. So it's going to keep all of your information here from OneNote, link it back and forth, and it will give you the link back if you want to see more information or exactly what meeting it was coming from. So if I say mark complete, then it disappears from my list here. And then the other great thing about OneNote and linking back and forth is you can move emails to OneNote. So let's say I want to move this email to my inbox because it's an important conversation that I want to save. Perhaps there's, conversations back and forth or meeting notes or something that's important to the rest of your project. You just want to pull all of that information over and it can come here. So it'll bring over the attachments, the documents, the email, high-level information, as well as all the text and details here. So if you're one of those folks that has way too many emails in their email folder and has a hard time finding things, then maybe those emails would be better saved in OneNote so you can better search, better find, and better organize those notes. So I think that was most of what I had set to cover today. So we have a little less time for questions, but I'm going to get through as many as I can, and perhaps if we go a few minutes over, that's okay as well. So I'm going to open the questions here. So I'll start at the beginning. Sorry, missed the first part of the clipping tool demo. So basically, if you just Google OneNote web clipper, it's just a simple download that you can install. It'll pop up on your browser, and then it has all of that functionality built in. So it actually has more functionality than what's in OneNote. So if you're constantly bringing things in from a browser, clipping information, I highly recommend installing this extension. How do you get fun icons on your tabs? Yeah, so that's something that I was playing around with one day. There is, if you're on your iPhone, it's much easier. You have all of those different icons on your phone. So your iPhone, if you download the OneNote app, it has the same functionality as OneNote on your desktop. So you can just simply go through your keyboard and add those emoticons to that text. So the next question was on the OneNote app. So it's very simple. You don't necessarily need to have Office on your device. You just need to be able to sign in to your Microsoft account, and it will link automatically. So if you're working in government, I don't know, and you have certain organizations that have lockdowns on your phone, I don't know if specifically if you can download it, but I believe most organizations, you should be able to download the OneNote app, sign in with your work account or your personal account, and it will automatically sync with your OneNote if you are hooked up to the cloud. So very handy. It is near real time as far as sharing information between devices and setting things up. So if I was to take a picture on my phone and add it to OneNote, it would quickly share, and I could open it on my desktop and add it to a presentation or anything like that. It's very handy. Can you assign tasks from OneNote? So if you mean assign tasks to yourself, very easy as far as using that Outlook flag. Can you talk about? Yeah, so as far as automatically sending something from your phone to OneNote without having to email, you're just opening it up in your OneNote app. So OneNote on the app, you can take pictures. I won't bother showing you my phone, but I guess if you see the OneNote app there and if you open it up, it's going to show you the same view as your phone. So the other thing that you can do within your phone is you can actually take pictures inside OneNote, and that will automatically bring that picture into OneNote and share it on your computer. So it does that automatically. You don't have to do anything extra as far as sending back and forth. It's just synced through the cloud. So export to Word, as far as I know, there's no quick and easy way. What you can do is share, and I forgot to mention this. If you do have any page that you do have, if I go back to this here, and I wanted to share this page or share whatever notes I took for a meeting, I can go up to share. So I can either share with people, so I can type in their email addresses. I can get a sharing link, so I can copy and paste that and send that by email. So that could be anyone within or outside your organization, or you can share with meeting. So this, if you bring in your meeting details and have all those participants, and it's linked with your Outlook calendar, you can automatically share those notes, and they will actually get a link to OneNote to see it. So you can actually give them, I'll show it here, but you can give them editing access, or you can give them just viewing access as far as the notes go. So maybe you want someone else to review your meeting notes. They might have something different, so you can add it and have one running copy. Or perhaps you don't want people messing with your notes, so you can just give them viewing access only. So this is, for those that missed it earlier, this is OneNote 2016. This comes preloaded on most new Windows computers. You might have two different versions of OneNote. So you might have the OneNote 2016 app, and you might have the plain or the OneNote that doesn't have anything here, other app. Right now, Microsoft is carrying both applications. I believe it's going to move to just OneNote, but carry some of the 2016 functionality with it. So they've announced a few different things. I'm not sure what's happening or exactly when, but I do know that with this OneNote, it does have a different screen, a different look and feel to it. It is missing some pieces of functionality. It does have certain other types of functionality, but I believe they are going to upgrade this OneNote to give it more of this 2016 functionality. All right, just going through here. So how do you link your phone and OneNote? So it should just be as simple as downloading the OneNote app, signing in through your Microsoft Office account, and it should do that automatically for you. So can you show again how to start a project? Yes. So if you're using the 2016, if you click on the top left, this is where all your notebooks are stored. So I recommend, if you are involved in a project, you are taking a lot of notes, you're doing a lot of research, it's taking up a significant amount of your time, then you should probably dedicate a notebook just to one project. And all you have to do is click Add Notebook. And then it's going to ask you where you want to save it. I recommend saving it to OneDrive. And then it's going to start just fresh. So this is where people get lost. And I did see a few questions as far as, you know, how to set up your notebook and what to do. And this is really kind of something that you just want to test and trial. I recommend if you're doing a project and it's set up in phases, then each phase can get its own tab. So you can know exactly where your notes are in each phase. And you don't want your pages getting too long and too deep. So if you have too many pages, it might be worth splitting those up into sections, but Phases is generally a good way to do it. Personally, I like having meetings as its own section. Then you know if you need to go back to meeting notes, if you need to go back to action items on meetings, if you need to remember who said what or what was delegated to someone else, it's all in this one tab. And then you can go back and see, geez, how many meetings did we need to have for this project? And you can see a long list and think to yourself, wow, maybe we don't need to have that many meetings, or we can approach this a little differently. So that's just my preference. I know I've seen a lot of people do other types of things. You'll just have to play with it and work with it. And if you see yourself, building many sections and subsections, if you look here, you can go three sections deep here. So 1, 2, 3 levels. You can only wrap up at the top level. You can't wrap up at between the second and third level. So this is just another way to help organize your notes. So you can have condensed to notebooks, your notebooks condensed to sections, your sections can condense pages. So there's a lot of wiggle room there. So let's see if I can answer one more question before I have to go. No, that looks like it's about it. So thank you very much, everyone. I'm just going to share this last slide here. So feel free to contact us. I believe I was informed this morning that this ops@barringtongroup.ca email address isn't working, so just connect with me directly if you do have any questions or any follow-up. rnewcomb@barringtongrp.ca, or what's even easier is if you just reach us through our website, barringtonops.ca. So for upcoming webinars, next week we do have a webinar. Trish Calder, you'll see the whole team. Logan, Gary, and I have already presented. Trish is presenting next week on Digital 5S. So if you're looking at all these tools and you're thinking, well, how do I organize my documents? I can't throw everything into OneNote. I can't throw my spreadsheets, Word documents, PowerPoint slides, everything in OneNote, or at least I advise you shouldn't. How do you keep track of all of that information on SharePoint, OneDrive? That's what Trish is going to talk through next week. And then in 2 weeks' time, we have a special activity-based planning webinar. So that'll be hosted through a different program. If you go to the chat, I have copied a link there if you do want to register and sign up for that. But it's a very neat, interesting software to actually measure and quantify all of your activities in your process, measure those, put cost to them, do some scenario-based planning. And we're going to talk about how Lean works with that activity-based planning software. After that, it's wide open. We don't have anything planned yet, so if you do have any ideas, if you want us to cover anything, if you want us to dig a little deeper, go a little further into any of these tools, for instance, if you're like OneNote, great, thanks for showing me an overview, but I want to, actually build a notebook, or I want to take a project and actually, see how it looks in OneNote. Maybe you want to look at some other tools such as Excel or PowerPoints. We have a lot of skills and expertise on a lot of Microsoft tools and a lot of Lean Six Sigma tools. So we're open to feedback and hearing, where you want to see us take these weekly webinars as it relates to productivity, Lean Six Sigma, and performance. So again, feel free to connect with me on email, reach out by LinkedIn. Thank you everyone for taking the time today. We will be sharing this webinar as a recording through YouTube and on our website. So pay attention to that. That should be coming out in the next few days. So thank you very much. Enjoy the rest of your day. And